What's going on, everybody? Darnish Geek here, and I finally got the camera working on the tablet, which, so the camera sucks, but for whatever reason it was recording videos at length, and then when I would try to upload them, it was cutting off, like, the end of the video, or it was just shortening them, so I was like, so I finally figured it out, and, good thing. So I thought, after I saw a post yesterday on Facebook, I would talk about something that I have been preaching for so many years, and thought that I would just take a moment to talk about that is. Now, I have to say, and I will always say this, if you ever ask me what my absolute favorite horror movie ever was, I'm going to say the first Halloween. Michael Myers is definitely my all-time favorite horror movie villain, and has been for as long as I can remember. And while there are many, 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 many of those 80s movies, horror movies that we were, exposed to, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, all of those that were just so phenomenal and had such great villains, I always had a soft spot for Michael Myers. I don't know why, I just did, and still do to this day. I love Freddy. I think Freddy is awesome. I love Jason. I think Jason's awesome, but Mike's my favorite by far. But the post wasn't about that. And I'm going to tell you that whether Halloween is my favorite horror movie or not, one of the best horror movies I think there is by far, hands down, without a doubt, the Blair Witch Project. And now I know what you're saying. You guys are like, what? No, come on. No, the movie sucks. And, okay, hear me out first. Before you start, stoning me. Hear me out. I remember when that movie was being marketed. I remember the trailers were like news broadcasts. They were like breaking into television shows you were watching, and it was like, the footage of these three hikers were found, in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, and they're releasing the footage, and we're gonna get this, incredible movie, and yada yada yada. And they marketed this movie in a way that you were meant to believe it. You were meant to believe that this was a true story. You were meant to be captivated by what you were seeing, because it was very well marketed. I mean, there's no going around that. It was marketed perfectly, because a lot of people believed it, and a lot of people bought into it, and it was very compelling. The story was compelling. And I remember the movie had been released, and it was in theaters, and my ex at the time and I had decided we were going to go to the drive-ins to see it, because we had drive-ins where we lived that were open during the summer, and it was quite a distance for us to get there, but it was kind of a nice little, thing that we did. And so we went to the drive-ins to see the movie. And I remember sitting on the edge of the seat the entire time. Like, I could not take my eyes off the screen. I was so enthralled in what I was watching. And it was marketed, it was promoted as a documentary, obviously, because that's what they were making. So you knew it was going to be documentary feel. And it was definitely promoted as a movie that was, not moving at a pace that, other horror movies would move at. And it was slow going. It really was. I mean, you have scenes of just nonsense. Like, you're thinking to yourself, what does this have to do with what I'm watching? Well, every single scene in that movie has everything to do with what you're watching, because the build up to the point when they actually go into the woods is getting you to like the characters. It's getting you to identify with them in some way. It is showing that they are real people. Okay? They're not paid actors. That's what it was supposed to do. And it was supposed to give you this illusion that these were not paid actors. They were not getting paid for this. This was their raw footage. And all of those scenes leading up to going into the woods was to get you to like them. Get you to identify with them. To introduce them, in a sense, to the audience as, hey, you know what, we're real people too. And we're just like you. We fight, we argue, we're normal. We're not, big-time celebrities here. And you really didn't know those three until you saw that movie. And then, of course, the scenes in the woods. And think about it. I mean, I don't really consider it a horror movie, actually. I consider it more suspense. But if you think about it, how would you do, how would you be in that same situation? Okay, let's just say, for instance, that the whole thing was real. And it was true, and there really was a Blair Witch haunting. And you're in the woods, and this stuff is happening to you. How would you personally react about being in that situation? And I think they did that flawlessly. I mean, they were cold, they were tired, they were hungry, they were terrified. And I think their reactions that we see on camera, or even off camera, were very genuine. And I think that, and that realism, in that whole sense of realism, is what made that movie so incredible. And no other movie had ever done that. No other movie had put the camera in the hands of the actors and said, here, go, do this. I mean, it was unheard of. So, of course, when it's promoted as a documentary, you kind of want that feel of a documentary. And I think that the idea, maybe not the movie so much, because I could sit here for hours and tear that movie to pieces, but the overall idea of putting the viewers of that movie behind the camera was phenomenal. I think that for a horror movie, that was the most, it was the greatest idea ever, because nobody had done it. And it needed to be done. After I saw that movie, I thought, that needed to be done. And a few months after I saw the movie, I was still, up here with it. I was still on this high about the Blair Witch. And then all of a sudden, I see Heather Donahue in a Steak and Shake commercial, and I'm like, what? My friends, the same people that loved the movie and were into the movie and were all about the movie, once it came out that this movie was not real, and that there was not, any truth to it. These were the same people that were saying that this movie sucks. This movie was, the worst movie they had ever seen. But prior to that unveiling that it wasn't real, these people were all over this movie and then some. And I think that was the way it was for a lot of people. I think a lot of people really liked the movie. And then when they found out that it was fake, they had to jump that bandwagon. And, oh God, it sucks. Now it sucks. Now all of a sudden it is like the worst freaking movie ever. And you can buy it for like $1 at Walmart on Blu-ray. And it just it went way up. And then plummeted just as fast. And people didn't appreciate what that movie did, how that movie presented itself, and how they marketed it, and how it was so real that, and the way that movie was meant to touch people and engage people. They succeeded. The movie did exactly what it was set out to do. It was set out to make you believe it. Check. It was set out to give you an adventure. Check. It was set out to scare the crap out of you. Check. So, say what you want about that movie, but that movie checked off every box down the list, and then some. The same people that say that that movie sucks are the same people that are buying freaking tickets to go see these Paranormal Activity movies. And I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, the Paranormal Activity movies are a Blair Witch ripoff. It's already been done. And I even said before the Paranormal Activity movies came out, I said this. You can ask any one of my friends. I said any other movie company or anybody else, any directors or whatever, writers or whatever, if anybody else ever tries to put the camera in the hands of the actors and give the audience the vantage point of being there, being behind the camera, not watching it, sitting back and watching it unfold, but actually watching it through the lens, it's ripping off the Blair Witch. Because whether or not you like the Blair Witch or you hated the Blair Witch, there was no denying that that was new and that was innovative. And that was something that you can't reproduce that. And when the Paranormal Activity movies came out, my first thought was, what? And I knew they were going to be bullshit from the word go, and they were. I mean, how many are there? 5 now? Like 4 or 5? And I just watched one called The Bell Witch Haunting. Same premise. Security cams, handhelds. Give me a break. I mean, how many times can you rip off that movie and get away with it? Like, people, if you think the Blair Witch Project sucks, then why are you watching those movies, Why? What would be the interest? Because it's basically the same thing. It really is. It's supposed to be real people behind their camera, holding their cameras, the vantage point of their handhelds or their security cams, and it gives you that feeling of actually being there. You're witnessing it unfold. What those movies did differently was it wasn't a documentary. Okay? Those weren't documentaries. Those were just, I think there's something going on in my house. Let me set up cameras. Because that's what everybody's initial reaction is to Paranormal Activity in their home is, let's set up cameras. No. So, I mean, come on. I happen to loathe entirely, my Grinch impression, the Paranormal Activity movies and any other movie that has blatantly ripped off the Blair Witch Project. People thought the Rocky Horror Picture Show was going to suck too, and look at that. I mean, come on. And the Blair Witch Project will live on with people like myself, people who advocate for it, and people who advocate for the fact that you cannot deny the idea was stellar. And I'm not saying the movie itself, I'm not saying, the movie, The Blair Witch Project, is the greatest movie of all time. No, I am saying the idea, okay, that idea, that concept was the greatest thing ever. I mean, when they're sitting in a room and they're trying to decide what kind of movie to make, and they're like, I got an idea. This has never been done before. Let's do this. Let's give the cameras to the actors. Let's get like 3 no-names. Like people that, you've never seen before. Let's just go to some small town in Iowa and pick up 3 people. 3 random friends. So they already have a bond as friends. And let's just pick up 3 random friends and let's just say, this is your adventure. This is what you're going to do. And instead of us being on, camera operators and microphones and all kinds of great, wonderful set stuff, let's just give them the cameras and then send them into the woods. And there were people at that table going, it's never going to work. People don't want to see that. And somebody sat back and listened to this and said, it will work. Because this is what we're going to do. We are going to promote it as a true story and as a documentary. Nailed it. Nailed it. And there's no denying it. What they set out to do, they did. And then some. So, the next time you're at a pawn shop and you see the Blair Witch Project, or at a yard sale, or at a flea market, or even at Walmart, and you see the movie The Blair Witch Project, it's gonna be cheap, okay? Because prior to it coming out as being fake and all made up, it was selling for, $24, $20. And then 3 days after it came out as being fake, it was $1. So, it's gonna be cheap. Probably pick it up for less than $5 at Walmart. Buy it. Buy that DVD. And if you never watch it, because I own the Blair Witch Project 2 Book of Shadows. That happens to be one movie that I love, and I can sit and I can watch it on, auto repeat over and over and over and over again and have. I know it forward and backwards. I love Jeffrey Donovan. And, and it just, I loved, Kim Director in that movie, and that movie was, I really like the movie. I like the take on it. I like how, it was coming off the celebrity of the Blair Witch Project, and how they kind of, made this sequel to it. But I don't own the Blair Witch Project. I did own it. I think I have it on VHS, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I still might have it in the closet in there, but I don't own it on DVD, and it is a movie that I do intend on buying and having in my collection. But even if you don't watch it, if you never watch that movie, never open it, put it in your collection. And when people are looking at your movies, and they see that you have the Blair Witch Project, they're going to ask you why you own that movie. And you can tell them. Because when the makers of this movie set out to do something different and innovative, and capture the audience in a way that had never been done before, and and promote a product in the way that they did, that deserves to be respected. And whether you ever watch it or not, you'll always have that little piece of cinema history. Because I believe it will go down as one of the it has to be. I'm going to do some research and see if any other horror movies before that had ever done that, had ever put the cameras in the actors' hands. I don't ever remember that happening. I do remember it in other genres of movies, but I don't remember it in horror. And I could be wrong. So if I am, please, comment down below and let me know. I would love to watch that movie, if there is one that exists that came out before The Blair Witch. But you have to remember, I'm 36, so, The Blair Witch is like my generation movie. Yeah, it really is the greatest idea. And that's why I consider that to be one of the best movies ever made. Because it was just that different. And nobody had ever seen it before, and it had never been done before, as far as I know. Again, I could be wrong, but I hadn't seen anything, so like I said, if I was, please, comment down below and let me know. But next time you watch the movie, if you ever want to sit down and just watch the movie, just watch the movie for what it was meant to do. Not for what it's showing you, but what it was meant to do. And how real it is, and how the realism is, and how they were able to capture that realism. Might change your mind about it. Anyway, that's the end of this video, because I'm already rambling for 20 minutes about the Blair Witch Project, and I could go on forever. But I do have a few other videos that I need to make today, so if I look the same, that's why. And I'm going to probably get to those here shortly, so stay tuned. Geek on, my friends.